I am live, and I'm the only one at the moment. Let's see. Wilson should be showing up in a few minutes. Chris should be showing up for a few minutes. And Party Paolo will not be showing up because he's having a good time for New Year's Eve. At least he's going somewhere, I think. Being that it's not exactly New Year's Eve yet. But I'd figured I'd come on and say hello, talk a little comics here, even if I'm by myself for a few minutes. Uh, Good evening, Eric P. How are you doing this evening? I'm doing pretty. I forgot my water. Hold on. It's just back here. But if I'm talking, I better have my water. I got a pile of books in my water's usual spot. I was just reading, as I'm sitting here waiting to go on, one of the books I got this week, the new Teen Titans #1 facsimile edition. Nice cover. I gotta say, this was a really good first issue. I have a copy of it. Glad that things are good there. I have a copy of the original on my shelf, and I didn't get it when it first came out because I wasn't buying many DC comics in the early 80s. Matter of fact, this is one of the books that got me to try more DC comics because, and I don't know where I heard these things in those days. I don't know, like, because in, like, let's say, what year did this originally come out? Like 1981 or something like that? Does it tell us in here? 1980. Because in 1980, there was no internet and there was no, so it's like, where did I get my I remember buying my comics news. Good day, Lord Tatman. I don't remember where exactly I got my comics news from, but I remember finding out around issue 5 or 6 that Perez and Wolfman were doing the new Teen Titans. So I was like, oh, I got to get that. Even though I don't buy DC comics, if George Perez is drawing them, I'm going to be buying some DC comics. I think he was drawing the JLA at around the same time. Good evening, people. 62 Lefty Blues. We should have Wilson and Chris with us shortly. Don't know where they are at the moment, but they're supposed to be showing up. But I figured I'd come on and talk a little new Teen Titans. And like I think I managed after, because it was before the pull list days. I had to go to the newsstand every week and pick up my comics. That's how I got my comics until I think it was the next year, 1981. But I probably didn't have a pull list until 1982. Good evening, Mind the Comics. So I managed to, once again, I have no idea. It was probably 1981 or it was probably could. I was a freshman in high school, I think. And I somehow heard that there were some kids with new Teen Titans. I think I was missing 1 to 4 to trade. And I happened to have some doubles of X-Men around issue, I don't know, in the 130s, I think they were. And they were willing to trade Teen Titans 1, 2, 3, and 4 for some X-Men I had doubles of. So that's what I did. I ended up, I don't even remember who the kids were. Never met them before. Don't know how I got in touch with them at school. Well, they met me in a street corner. And I still the memory of them. I of course had my X-Men all nice and packaged up. They came on a bike with one of those back things on a bike that has a big claw clamp, and they had the comic books in the claw clamp. So mine have like dents in them. I saw that and I was like, oh, but I had no choice. I wasn't getting those comics anywhere else. So I got that completed my Teen Titans collection. I still have those 4 issues, but I figured I would get this facsimile. Back when DC Comics and Marvel advertised guns. Of course. Daisy 840 shoots BBs and pellets. But this was a really good first issue. I mean, there's Chris. Good evening, Chris. How are you doing?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm just talking a little Teen Titans facsimile edition at the moment.
Teen Titans.
Did you ever read this one? Were you a Teen Titans fan? This is number 1.
Nah, I totally missed out on that. That was a groundbreaking era. Would you
Yeah.
say?
Yes. It
I
got
totally
it got
missed it.
me to buy DC Comics. So it's like when a bunch of Marvel talent moved. It was 1980, moved over to DC, and this is a really good first issue.
Was that basically like the DC answer to the hot X-Men book
It was
over at Marvel?
matter of fact, at one time in the like throughout the early 80s, Teen Titans number 1 was almost as hot as like, well, it may have been as hot as X-Men 94, but not Giant Size and X-Men. It was a expensive book in the early 80s. It's probably, I don't think it's as hot now as it was then. But it was hot then. Let's see. Lord Tapman says, I couldn't get into Teen Titans. Hell, I didn't start reading DC until 1985 or so. Yeah. George Perez, that's what made it for me. You could probably find a low-grade version of that Teen Titans for that facsimile edition. Probably. Price. Yeah. Like I said, it's not, a 9.8, of course, would be super expensive. But I think you can find this for fairly cheap. What's interesting, too, is DC's printing at this time wasn't very good. I went back to read some of my original issues a few years ago, and they were hard to read, the printing. Like, the lettering was like smudged because that was the plastic printing plate days. And if you got a comic from late in the print run, the black line was often like fuzzy. And especially like, I can't remember what it was, issue like 3, 4, or 5 I was reading. I was like, oh my God, I can barely make out the words. Because, all these years had passed, the paper had gotten yellower, and the black plate had not gotten any clearer. I didn't get into the Teen Titans until I was in college. Yeah, like I said, I was lucky enough to be around kind of at the beginning. And I was just, like I said, it was George Perez that made me go and get these. And these are some good superhero comics right here. Though I noticed the prices on facsimile editions have gone up. This one is only $4, which is fine with me. But Marvel put out the Miller Claremont miniseries Wolverine number 1. This week it came out, and the price was $5. I was like, no, thank you. More Swamp Thing pulled me into DC, followed by Dark Knight Returns. Yeah, I was lucky enough. Once again, I don't know where I heard about these things, but I think Alan Moore got on Swamp Thing at like issue 20, and I think I started buying Swamp Thing with like issue 22 or 23 because I'd heard it was really good. I don't know where I heard it. I must have been reading some comic book magazine or something.
Is it possible you heard it at the comic shop?
I don't know, because I don't think so, only because my taste was never mainstream. So, and I know, and I always have my friend Rob, who always went to the comic shop, to compare with, in that he always discovered things like a year after I did. And we went to the comic shop together. There's Wilson. Good evening, Wilson.
Good evening, my friends. How you guys doing?
We're doing okay. Talking some Teen Titans and facsimile editions. I got 28 facsimile editions this year. I did not realize I got so many. I think because most of them came at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
because like I was just
That's how they get you.
because the price of facsimile editions has been putting me off. This one's $4. That's fine. Marvel just came out this week with Wolverine #1, the Claremont Miller one, but it was $5. And they also had one that was I'd never heard of before. It was one of those Marvel 70s double size books, like their giant size one, except it was called Marvel All Stars. And there was a Rich Buckler drawn story. I think Jerry Conway wrote it. And it was mostly a Thing versus Hulk story. Chris disappeared. And I'm like, I never saw this one before, except it was like $8. It was a double size, I was like, I don't need it. I don't need more Rich Buckler for $8.
Right.
I got the Wolverine facsimile edition this week and it was $5. Yeah, I was just like, I couldn't figure out why it was $5, so I passed on it. Man, that time frame when the Swamp Thing, Dark Knight, and Watchmen and Year One existed was special. Yeah, a lot of good stuff from DC in that era. Just tons of mid-'80s DC, which was just kind of when I was getting out of comics. But being that Swamp Thing started in the early 80s, I was still buying that. And Year One, I really wasn't buying any Batman, but I went and got Year One because Miller and Mazzucchelli were doing it.
Right.
And Dark Knight, of course, I got. And Dark Knight, I always say it was amazing that Dark Knight was under-ordered because, Batman wasn't as popular back then. I mean, he was still one of DC's most popular heroes, but it was, like an expensive book. So comic shop, didn't know how much they should order.
Yeah, I
Great
don't think
time to be
anyone knew
reading.
how it was going to take off.
Yeah, they didn't know.
'cause I didn't know. I picked it up. I looked at it. Did not like the way it looked. Put it right back. Issue 1. I had it in my hands. By issue 3, everybody was talking about it, so I had to go looking for it. It was already. I think I ended up picking issues 1 and 2 up. I think they might have been in 3rd printing by that point. By the
Yeah.
time I was able to get those, because I picked up issue. I think I started on issue 3 later on when everybody was just like, no, you have to read it. It's a great read. Don't worry about the art. Because the art did put me off on it at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I just I looked through it and it's like, I didn't mind the format, but I didn't like that price tag. So
Yeah.
I put it right back on the shelf and it was like, oh.
Yeah, I can, like I've told this story before. Dark Knight #1 was the one time my comic shop back then didn't look out for me, I thought, because they always did. Different shop than now, but the shop I had gone to, it opened in summer of 1981. So I went to that shop till it closed in, I think they closed in like 98 or 99. But I was a regular. They always took care of me, except I was one of the people who actually pre-ordered Dark Knight. Except I was away at college at the time, so I only stopped and got my comics once every month, 6 weeks, because I was away at college. And so they of course pre-ordered me a Dark Knight, but then it was in such demand that they were like, ooh, should we sell his copy to someone? We can make some money at it. And they never did that with any other book ever the whole time I was there. So they ended me up keeping, reserving a copy for me, but it was like the most damaged copy in the pile.
Oh.
So like to this day, my issue of Dark Knight has scuffs all over it.
Right.
And I was just like, really? You didn't look out for me? Because that was the only time they didn't look out for me. So I still remember that, like all these years later, the one time they didn't look out for me. the 100 times they looked out for me, I don't remember, but I know they did. So I wasn't too mad with them, but I was just like,
When I ended up working in a comic book shop, I was there during the death of Superman. and the craziness that was going on with that book. And we had a pull list there. And so the issues came out and we started putting it onto the stands. We started filling up people's orders and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so we ordered whatever the amount was that we would normally order for the shop and a few extra issues, just because, we saw it for what it was. It was a gimmick, it was a fill in issue for that time period.
Hmm.
And we didn't expect it to make the news the way it did. And it had what I used to call the Entertainment Tonight effect. No one cares about the comic until it appears on Entertainment Tonight. Then it's
Right.
something. Then it's a must-have at that point. And we had so many people showing up, even saying, "Oh, I ordered the book here. Where's my book?" And it's like, "We've never seen you before. What do you mean you ordered the book?" People tried anything and everything. They were saying,
Wow.
"Oh, I drove down here from Rhode Island to pick up that book. Why don't you have any? Do you have any in the back?" And it's like, "Yes, we have them hoarded in the back. So we don't want to sell these books." But the people who had ordered them, they got them.
Right.
It was a nice time at the comic book shop until these strangers started appearing, saying, "Why don't you have a copy of the book?" Um, one person turned around and was like, "Oh, you didn't want to sell me the book because I'm Hispanic?" And it's like, where does that come from? Both the manager and myself are Hispanic. I don't understand where this is coming from. And we even had
There-
people saying that we're going to call somebody, Better Business Bureau or whatever. And it's like, we sold out of the book. There's, we can't give you any. We have none. Don't you have some for the people who ordered them in a draw somewhere? It's like, yeah, those people ordered them and they'll be getting them. You've never been in this store. And it was insane how just people came out of the woodwork
yeah.
looking to get this
Wow.
book. And it's like, it's crazy. Just a few years that I worked in a comic book shop, I saw all types of people that was like, people who would come in with a comic book that said they found it in the attic. Is it worth anything? It's like the book came out like 2 months ago. What are you showing us? And one of the favorite things I remember is that during Halloween, they would shut down the main street of the town, and they would have like parades and stuff like that. So all the local stores will have like an outside bin of stuff.
Right.
And during Halloween, we would give away books, but we learned to put a stamp on the book. You got this free copy of the book from blah blah blah. The name of the store was called Amazing Tales, and give them out for Halloween. And sure enough, a week later, someone will show up trying to bring the book back to sell it. It's like there's a sticker on it, and we gave this out. And it's like they have the heart to tell them the reason why we gave these out is because no one are buying these particular books. We're just giving them out.
Eric P says it's fun looking back. Not only were my peers reading Watchmen as it came out, but so were some of their parents. I didn't know any parents buying it, but I was buying it as it came out. But I'm not as big a Watchmen fan as everybody else is. To me, like I've always been an indie comic fan, even back then. To me, Watchmen was like an indie comic for mainstream superhero readers. So there was like nothing groundbreaking about Watchmen for me, as it was for a lot of people who never read anything like it.
Yeah, when it came out, it did nothing for me. These were not recognizable characters to me. I didn't
How
realize.
old were you when it came out?
Uh, Watchmen would have been what, 84?
No,
80,
86.
86.
I was around 20, 1920.
Okay, so 86. I was 15,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, I was probably about 15. 86. I was so into Marvel and DC characters.
Right.
I wasn't collecting indies yet, or at all.
Right.
86, I would have been living in New York, back in the Bronx, so I would have had access to many comic book titles,
Mhm.
but Watchmen did nothing for me. I did not
Mm,
end up picking up Watchmen until probably their first trade paperback.
okay.
And again, listening to other people say, "Oh, you have to read this." And it's like, and I read it, and it's like, it was okay. It was interesting, but again, because I think I probably would have enjoyed it more if it was with the known characters that he wanted to
Right.
use. If it was with the Charleston characters,
Right.
I probably would have enjoyed it more. But I
I
don't know.
probably would have enjoyed it less.
I probably would not have liked them killing off characters.
Right. Time
You know?
flew by, man. Lord. Yeah, it sure
Yeah,
did.
definitely.
Question: what one or two Marvel or one or two DC books would you like to see facsimile editions of? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
buy so few that
yeah, and I've been buying kind of like the books I already own.
yeah.
Um, just because it's easier to read a facsimile than it is to dig out one. I wonder if I would go for a facsimile book of something I'd never had. There's plenty of books from the 70s that I wasn't collecting. I don't know if I would be interested in them as a facsimile.
Right.
Um,
What I like about facsimile editions is it turns them back into worthless comics again. Like especially a lot of the stuff they're doing is expensive comics. Even Teen Titans #1 is a pretty expensive comic. Not as expensive as, Hulk 181. But like if you have a copy of Hulk 181, it's not a comic anymore. It's like a precious artifact. And you're either going to slab it, you're going to wrap it up in, boards and bags, and you're not going to look through it and you're not going to let anyone else look through it. You're not going to let anyone thumb through your $5,000 comic. Not going to happen. So a facsimile edition of Hulk 181 turns it back into a comic book again. You can flip through it, you can look through it. It's not worth but $4. So that's what I like about facsimile editions. It makes them comic books again that we can all share and look through and look at it as a comic book. Even looking at like a big old collected edition isn't the same as looking at a comic. Much as I like big old collected editions, they're great for reading the old stuff, but it's not a comic. So these facsimiles turn these expensive books back into comic books. And that's kind of what I like about them. But also, like, what I like about them, I like to see like Teen Titans 1 as a comic book with good new modern printing.
yes.
They use the matte paper, so it's not glossy like the old one, but it's printed so nicely. That's what I like about it. I would like to see like the one. I don't know why it pops into my head. Besides, it was one of my favorite comics from the era, Omega the Unknown #1. I've got the originals. I've got the a collected edition of it. I think I got the collected edition. But I'd like to see Omega the Unknown #1 as a facsimile. Let's see. I want facsimiles of X-Men 50 and 51. Yeah, maybe some of that Neil Adams X-Men stuff. I would definitely get those. I get the facsimile editions of Spider-Man 121 and 122, which I've never read and really enjoyed reading them. Yeah, I got those too. But like I said, they're really fun to read just as comics again. I'd like to see facsimile edition of pre-code horror stuff. One thing I got this year, I think, I just stumbled onto it. I love these EC reprints. And I wanted this is one of my favorite Frontline Combat covers. And I have it somewhere in a collected edition. I was like, I want it as a comic book. So I got this 90s reprint of it. I was just like, cool. I'll take it. But like those DC has been putting out those like early Batman facsimiles, but they've just been too I don't want to pay $8-9 for a Golden Age Batman facsimile. I feel
Yeah,
like Watchmen was a Stranger Squadron Supreme from the previous year. Yeah, Squadron Supreme was a attempt to make superheroes realistic. I think those would be good facsimile editions. Like all that Steranko and Neil Adams X-Men stuff from that era would be good as facsimile editions, I think, because they had nice covers and nice Neil Adams art.
Yeah, I can't think of any of the DC ones that I would want. Um, because when I was thinking about it, I thought, maybe like the 100 pagers, the Superman
Ah,
family, Batman families, but you could kind of still get them at a reasonable price. They're not really that
right,
expensive. I haven't looked in a while, but usually sometimes when I'm looking in the dollar bins, those are usually what I'll pick out and get because there's just so much story that
right.
it's kind of contained. Like some facsimile editions, like the Batman one that I picked up fairly recently. For recently, it was in the summer that I picked up, and it was I don't know why they reprinted it. It was the first appearance of like the Squid or some low level character, but the story didn't continue. It kind of like set up, and this is the first appearance of that character. And he didn't show up in any other media that I'm aware of, and there was no continuation of that story. So to me, it's like, yeah, it's very much like collecting comics in the 70s where you bought something, you didn't know if you were going to find it again.
Yeah,
So I guess, it fits the time period completely with even getting an incomplete story that way. So I do like the facsimiles that are either double size or at least you kind of know the next issue is going to come out. And I picked up the Spider-Man ones, especially the ones that I never got, like the 120 and 121. I think are those the first Punishers.
yeah.
Yeah, I think.
No, that 120, 121 are the death of Gwen Stacy and the Green Goblin. 129 is first
I think,
Punisher.
yeah. So I wanted that one because I never had got that for the
Yeah, I got
collection
that
in
one
general.
too.
So it was one of those that it was kind of, I guess you could say, my grail. I always looked for it, and the few times I tried to negotiate a good price for it back in the '90s when I had money, um, with the comic book shop that I worked in, I was always trying to get that one, but it turned out it was like I just didn't get it. I was going to buy it from the not from the shop itself, but the manager of the shop had his own personal copy and we were
See,
going
I
back and
prefer
forth.
White Whale to Grail as our
Okay.
literary references. The
Uh-huh.
main problem I have with somebody saying, "Oh, I finally got a Grail comic," is the whole point of the search for the Holy Grail is that it didn't exist. You're eternally searching for something that doesn't exist. That's the whole point of it. It brings you to ruin.
Okay.
A white whale, at least exactly, from Moby Dick, at least exists. It brought him to ruin also, but it's
Right.
something that is. But
But
people
it's
say, "I
something
got."
that was real.
I'm like,
Okay.
it can't be a holy grail if it exists. That's the whole point of the Holy Grail, or the Grail is the original Grail was a before it became Christianized was a food bowl. It was the idea of this magical bowl which was always filled with food. So, you can imagine that was a good thing way, way, way back in the day when your food resources were not always
Low.
reliable. To have a food bowl that was always full was a good thing. But, it doesn't. The whole point of the Grail is it doesn't exist. So, whenever people are like, "Oh, I got this Grail," I'm like, "You're not getting a literary reference, are you?" Let's see what we got here. Some Kirby DC and Marvel Time facsimile edition seems like money in the bank. Yeah, that'd be the New Gods, OMAC, all that stuff from the 70s from DC would probably be good. Anyone reading Canary from Snyder and Panosian? No,
No.
I have not seen that one at all. But I like it. I don't really buy Marvel or DC regularly, so I have not seen that one. I'll have to check it out. Has anyone done a White Whale Holy Grail team up? Two things you'll never get.
That's because the whale swallowed it.
The whale swallowed the grail, and now it's never hungry. It's Dark Horse, not Marvel. Oh, okay. That's the Canary? Okay, so it's not. Oh, that was one. The main problem I have with Dark Horse comics is their physical comics. I remember looking at that one now and going, oh, this one looks pretty cool. But the comic itself was so flimsy. I haven't been buying Dark Horse comics, not because of their content, but because the comics themselves are so flimsy that I'm always like, oh, man. Can you make a good physical comic? Because they're all self-covered and they're all on really thin paper. So I'm kind of like, it just annoys me. So that it's like, and I remember looking at that one and thinking it was cool. I would have bought it if it was a better physical comic. As the cup used at the Last Supper, it might exist slabbed in some private collection. Just saying, the Holy Grail existed before it was Christianized. But yeah, that's what it is in the Christian mythology.
Also, Indiana Jones dropped it, so it's forever lost.
Damn it, I'm late. Had a big painting order and lost track of time. Did I miss any art supply talk or dolphin news? Did Wilson show pictures of Cider-Man or his sky? No, he hasn't yet.
No, I have not yet.
I do have some dolphin news, but we'll get to that eventually. I hear you, but the title is a better stuff. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I liked the way it looked. I was just like I picked up the actual physical comic. I think that was the one. I don't even remember now. But I think I have it in my hand now. It's not flimsy at all. Better stock. Okay, maybe I missed that one then. Maybe I didn't see. Maybe I'm thinking of another Dark Horse comic. Canary. Okay. If it's a good stock, I know Matt Kint's stuff from Dark Horse always has a good cover stock. So I'm like, what makes him so special?
His books are probably selling the right price point for it to gather that kind of stock.
Yeah. Oh, Chris is back.
Yay!
Almost. He was back
Yep.
and then he dropped out.
You mentioned him by name and made him skittish.
Ooh. I got a bunch of collected editions for Christmas. I did a video on Christmas Day, but I'll show them off again. First thing, a really nice box. This year, I bought a few different tarot card decks. Not because I read tarot cards or anything, but I like the artwork on them. And this is let me go big. Buffy the Vampire Slayer tarot card deck. Chris is back. Let me go small so I can let him in. There, Chris is back.
I'm back.
So
thank you for going small.
I think the package is better than the illustrations on the cards because that's a really nice box. You open it up, little ribbon that you pull up on, and it gives you this little book on how to read the tarot card deck. So there's a nice little instruction book. And you pull up some more. There's a nice big tarot card set. Let me go big here. Whoops. With all these different the art on some of them is the design is very nice. Whoops, the color is very nice. Some of the illustrations are just so though. Like not terrible or anything, but just so. But I love, there's the back of it. Nice design, nice colors, nice printing. Like I don't know about that suit. It's okay, but I don't know if it'd be Gus approved. Like there's one I don't particularly like. That dress isn't particularly nice. But like I said, okay. It's an okay tarot card deck. I kind of like the whole package better than the individual parts. Like there's a nice one. just kind of a hand with a bird and a nice design. The Ace of Chalices. So that's like pretty good one. Like I said, I bought a few tarot card decks this year just for the art. The art of the card. Did you guys get any comics for Christmas?
I didn't get comics per se. I got comic related stuff. So I received I got this Batman 66 Jada. I think it's Jada. Jada? Hollywood Rise. Yes, Jada made this Batmobile. So it's
Wonder how
Batman
those cards look
66.
under. Let's see. I made you big. Oh, that's pretty cool.
So it comes with two figures. They're little metal figures, but the Batmobile is supposed to light up. I haven't opened it up yet. I figured I'll do an unboxing of that. So
Right.
here's the company, Jada. So officially licensed by DC. And
You
I
have to,
have
you'll
quite
have
a
to check
few.
out Wilson's TikTok channel for the unboxing.
Yes. So so I have quite a few Batmobiles. The Batman 66 is one of my favorites. So I have different sizes, going back to different eras and years and stuff like that. So I received that from my Secret Santa. And not only did I get that, I got a Godzilla. Surprising enough, I got a Godzilla from the movie Godzilla 2000. So this is
Oh,
the millennial Godzilla era.
Gojira.
There we go.
Gojira.
There's one with like the purple um, spikes, and it's one of the looks that I really enjoy.
yeah, that one's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, so this is a Bandai figure. The Bandais are a little more affordable than some of the other ones, like the SH Monster Arts are one of the more expensive ones. But the
Mhm.
Bandais, which SH Monster Art is also Bandai, but these are more vinyl. So they're limited articulations, but they look really good. So when people ask me, oh, I want to start collecting Godzillas, what do I recommend? I usually say try the inexpensive Bandai ones to see if you like them before you go
Yeah.
ahead and get the more expensive ones.
Now,
So this is,
do you take the swing tags off?
I usually do. Since I just got it, I've left it on this one.
Uh-huh.
But 9 times out of 10, I open the action figures and
Right.
I take the tags off. Trick is to remember to keep the tag somewhere.
Huh. Let's see. Mine in the comments says Promethea is my source for tarot reading. I bought a bunch of hardcovers. Read Dark Ark by Colin Bunn and loved it. Okay, I don't know that one. I have that Godzilla toy. We are toy twins. How was -1 movie?
The -1 movie was very entertaining, very, very, very well done. I found that it was probably the first Godzilla movie that I've watched where if you took out the monster from the story, it would still be a compelling story. Because usually the parts with the people are either boring or not interesting. But here, the people had like a lot of depth to them. There was so much going on. I thought it was really well done. Probably one of the best Godzilla movies out there for just how well it was done, story wise, and with the whole with Godzilla stuff in it. It made it thrilling. It was a thriller. I don't know. I would say scary, but there were some tense moments. So I thought it was quite well done.
Eric P agrees with you. Godzilla -1 was great.
Yep.
Now I'll tell you the story about me this week, and I Raiders of the Lost Ark a couple of my comics.
Oh, okay. So
In
you put
that,
them away somewhere?
where? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
No,
So
that means he backed them up into the propeller of a prop plane.
You remember Craig Thompson's Ginseng Root? It was a comic I bought this year. And it was the one where I only discovered it with issue 10. So I got 10, 11, and then it finished up with 12 just like last month or something. Okay. And it was also the one where, if you remember, I was talking about, because I wanted, if I was going to wait for the collected edition to come out or try and buy the individual issues, because I could buy the individual issues right off the publisher's website. But for like what was it, 10 issues I was missing, or 9 issues I was missing, it'd be about $70. Now, and I was like, I know, though he said it's not going to be for a couple of years, there would be a collected edition for about $30. That's the way it works. So I was like, do I really want to spend $70 now? And I was like, no. I'm gonna. Just this week, I decided to look on eBay to see what was there, because I had looked before, and they had issues 1 through 6 and 8. So 7 of the 9 issues I need with. And of course, I did what I always do, is I put it on my watch list. So then the guy, like 2 hours later, came back with giving me an offer of 20% off.
Right.
So all in with tax, shipping, and the price, it was, I think, $28 for these 7, $4 an issue. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's less than cover price. So then I was like, oh, let me go and get my issues that I have. And only issue 12 is there. And I remembered that usually when I put away comics, what I do is I have a section for all the new comics that I buy, like that ones. And I also have a database where I can, if I want to know where my Spider-Man comics are, even though I know where they are, I look it up and it tells me what shelf or what box they're in. That way I can find stuff. Or ginseng root. I will either put it in the comics that are currently collecting under G for ginseng root, or I have another section for stuff that I only buy for the artist kind of thing. The artist is the reason I have them. Like all my Chris Girusso comics are in the Chris Girusso section.
Oh, yeah.
That way, if I want to look for a Chris Girusso comic, I don't have to go to G-Man, Marvel Minis over here. What's that alien one you did?
Encounter.
If I did it by title, they'd be all over. So I put them all in the Chris Girusso section. So I remember now when I got issue 12 of Ginseng Root, I was like, I went to put it away in the Ginseng Root section, and there was none. I went to put it away in the Craig Thompson section, and there was none. And I was like, where are issues 10 and 11? I don't know. I'm like, I'll make a Craig Thompson section now, and I'm sure they'll show up. So I did that. That was like a month ago. So now this week, I'm looking for them, and I'm looking everywhere. Because they're also shorter comics. And there are places that I put like random short stuff. I'm like, maybe I put them there. No. I'm looking all around. I have no idea where those 2 issues are. They got Raiders of the Lost Ark warehoused, and they're just somewhere, who knows. But as a result of looking everywhere, I did find
Nice.
The Mighty Skullboy Army meets G-Man mini comic.
Yeah.
This is a Chris Girusso, Jacob Chabot team up mini comic from 2004. 2004. Now, who drew this? Did you draw your parts and Jacob drew his parts?
Yeah, I believe it is it is a jam piece.
A jam piece. I don't know how many people have this one.
I had that one. I don't know if I still have it.
I completely forgot about it, but in searching all of my, little comic places, I found it amongst my mini comics. Still haven't found any of the ginseng root. It's been driving me crazy. I must have spent like 4 hours over the last week searching for ginseng roots 10 and 11. At this point, it'd be cheaper to just buy them again. How much
Uh-huh.
time I put in looking for them. And also as a consequence, I found where I stuck Tit Goblin's dolphin painting.
Oh, that's great. You found that one.
If you remember, last time I couldn't figure out where it was when he mentioned it. It was right back here, right behind me. But Raiders of the Lost Ark did. I have no idea where those two issues are. And it's going to drive me crazy. And I don't even, how sometimes you say to yourself, I'll put this whatever in this other
that mean,
spot.
When you Raiders of the Lost Ark did, does that mean you were feeling sick that day, so you just shot it?
No, it does not.
Send it to top men to read them. Top men.
Well, that's my story of frustration from now. Sometimes you go, oh, I'll just put this someplace safe.
Yeah.
And then you forget where that someplace. I don't even remember saying that.
Mm.
I don't remember anything about where I put them.
Well, I thought this was headed to you decided. I thought it was going to be you decided not to buy the single issues anymore. You're just going to wait for the collected edition.
Being that I found them for cheap, I bought them, or at least some of them. I'm still missing 2. But now I'm missing 2 more because they're somewhere here.
Those are the ones you shot.
Yes.
So those then maybe you even made an area for spices or other food.
Are those the ones you were digging for in the wrong place?
BB is right up there. Right back up there. It's easy to find. It's giant. Yeah, though I said
the right headpiece for the staff.
Though then I said to myself, maybe I put it near blankets. I can't find blankets. I'm like, do I have a copy of blankets? Did I read somebody else's copy of blankets? I can't remember. I thought I had a copy of I thought I bought a copy of blankets I think I originally read, it may have been, did you have a copy of Craig Thompson's blankets, Chris?
I did, and I remember lending it around the bullpen.
I may have read your copy way back when.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think I bought a copy recently, but I'm not sure because I couldn't find that either. But I can find Habibi. I file by how I remember it. Books, movies. I have to, being that I'm constantly getting new comics, I have to move things around. Wow, the dolphin news was my dolphin. Yes, it was. I just spent Undead Queen. I just spent a week going through my year and a half collection. Wow. Is it with a copy of Goodbye Chunky Rice? That I know I don't have. I never got that one. Do you have a League of Comic account? No, I don't. I have a for years I made my own database in FileMaker Pro. My copy of FileMaker Pro from 15 years ago finally stopped working. So now I keep my database in the Apple Numbers program, which is the Apple equivalent of Excel. Tells me what issues I have and where they are. So every week I just enter what I bought into my numbers spreadsheet, and that's how I keep track of it. You know where it tells me 10 and 11 are? It doesn't. I somehow never entered in it. It tells me they're with number 12, which I know they're not. Because I put the location in when I put number 12 in. Driving me bonkers. And we know Wilson doesn't organize his comic. He's got boxes of stuff.
I got
boxes. He opens up and goes, hey.
Yeah, I open up boxes and it's like, so it's the reverse Indiana Jones. I'm discovering stuff. It's like, oh, these are all from 2004 because that's what's in that box.
He doesn't have a collection. He's got an accumulation. Do you have a stack of to be entered books? No, I don't. Well, I have in the past, but I don't really need the actual books since on my blog on radiantcomics.com, a link at jaredosborne.com, I write every Saturday. I post what books I got that week, so I can just go to my list that I post on the blog, which I have in a writing program called Scrivener, is where I write everything, and then I can just enter right from my list in Scrivener. So that way I can put the books away and catalog them later if I want to. I used to catalog them like right as I got home from the store. Then when I started using numbers, I stopped doing that. And so had to catalog a lot of stuff at the end of November. So the last 2 weeks in December, I started cataloging right when I got back from the store again. Because it gets to be a pain when you have to do it for 6 months worth of books. But in some ways it's easier because you can just put like Spawn 247 through 2. If you start from like the closest point in time to me, the furthest away from when I start, you can just go, oh, the last Spawn book I inventoried was 238, and I'm up to 246 now, so I can just put until 246.
Right. Yeah, I haven't kept a database of the books since I started working at Marvel. Before that, it was easy. Because I would get the books in, I would put them into, I think it was some MS-DOS that I was using at the time to create a spreadsheet, and it was basically, I think I used to keep it as, the issue number, what I paid for. I think at one point I was keeping a tally of what it was worth because I would
Mhm.
also pick up the Comics Buyer's Guide and go through it. And then once I started working at Marvel and was getting Marvel and DC and Indies for free,
You got
I
overwhelmed.
felt overwhelmed. I felt like, oh, they're giving me these books. I should take them all home and read them all. And I did for a while. And then it was like, I can't, eventually it was like, okay, I can't keep the tally of them. Then eventually went from, I can't bag and board all these. They're very expensive. So I'll just bag them. Then I started putting like a series within the bag, so 2 issues per bag,
Right.
kind of a thing. Again, trying to keep the price down. I stopped having long boxes. Well, I learned that from working at a comic book shop. Having to
Yeah.
move long boxes, you bust your back. So I started doing short boxes. Eventually, it was like, now I got to pick up a bunch of short boxes. So I started bringing the boxes home from Marvel to put the books in from that we would get directly from Diamond, whoever the
Right.
distributor was back in the 90s. So I was putting those back in those boxes, and I didn't bother to bag and board those. So like I said, those started to be bagged up within like the 6 month of whatever year that was. That group of books, and they just started piling. And then once I left Marvel, it was like, all right, then go to the comic book shop, get my usual set of books, and then I realized this is way too many books. This is way too expensive. You got spoiled real easily getting it free from Marvel. So I changed it right away to like, what are the core books I was going to get?
What do I
But I
actually
never
want to
went back
pay
to.
for?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, is it worth paying for? And a lot of them are not. You start looking at them with a different eye. Where it's like, oh, okay, now I become a little more picky and choosy with
Am I really a new Warriors fan?
or when I picking up books out of habit, which for a long time I was.
Yeah. That's
So
what
once I
happens when you're like a Marvel or DC fan. Pick up books out of habit until they finally break you.
yeah.
Let's see. I had an hour this week to surf the web, and I went out and looked at your Dropbox links for a few things. Your old picture archive of the bullpen was great. I love looking at the art supplies everyone had. Ah, yes. That's my what did I name that? Double secret probation. If you go to jaredosborne.com, you can find the link to a little like a PDF I put together when it was right before Marvel went into their bankruptcy, when they were at peak employment. I took everybody's picture, went around and took everybody's picture around the bullpen. And I put that into a PDF. Batman Year One Artist Edition is coming. Ooh, might have to pre-order. I think it's going to sell out quick. Those multi-tape dispensers were giant and awesome. I need one of those babies. Me too. I wish I had one. The hobby gets expensive. It does. That's why I still, to this day, since I'm before the age of boarding, most of my books I don't board. Like this one's got a board in it just because I find books I buy for their covers, like my bought only for their covers section is boarded. And some of my expensive books, though I don't really have any, are boarded. But they just take, since everything's bagged, but I'm before the board era, so they take up too much room and expense for me.
Yeah.
So I never bothered. But speaking of artist editions, one of the things, for the first time, I got one of these artisan editions, which are same as the artist editions, but smaller and only $40 price tag. So not $120, a third the price, and smaller. So this is a bunch of EC stories. I got this one. It's not the original art size, but it's the original art. So I look forward to looking through this one. But this is the first time I bought one of these artisan editions, they call them. You got to break that binding to get them to fall flat. Silver printed. Bill Gaines silver printed all the original art, which are stats before there were stats.
Oh, okay.
And
Like I don't recall
saved
it.
all the art too.
Okay.
A silver print is, I think it's basically the same process as making a stat because it's photochemical, but they're called silver prints because that's what was used to make photographs back. The silver halide was what you did if you're making a black and white photograph. The silver halide solution, I think, was the developer. Hence, silver print was when in the 50s, if you were making a stat, it was called a silver print. He actually had a stamp that when the original art was silver printed, there's a little stamp that says silver print up there. A little bitty word.
Yeah, I've never seen those. Nice.
So I guess that's but I think EC also kept the original art, which is why it all still exists. So they kept it and filed it away. I think Bill Gaines was good at filing things away because there's always like file copies of EC comics out there. The new previews had an artisan like you have of EC covers. I'm tempted. Oh yeah. I actually bought the EC covers artist edition, but it came so damaged that I had to return it. I mean, it was wrecked. It looked like someone took a sledgehammer to all four corners, wrecked.
Right.
And that was the only time I bought an artist edition, not from my LCS. I bought it from Amazon because I'd been keeping an eye on the price of that one, and they had a used $80 one. And I was like, for that price, I'll take it because, like I said, it's easy to return things to Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's like I only had it in my hands for like 2 hours before it was gone back to wherever it came from. I was like, this thing is wrecked. I mean, I don't even know how you wreck a book that badly.
Right.
I mean, you had to smash it on all four corners. One corner smashed, I can see. 2 corners smashed. 4 corners smashed. Someone had to do that on purpose.
Yeah,
Maybe it
someone was
fell
upset.
all the way down the stairs. Maybe it was 2 flights of stairs.
Nah,
That's
maybe it
Chris's
went down.
cartoon brain working. He turns it into a gag. And it goes, didn't. I can see that happening now.
It went
Yeah.
down an up escalator, so it just kept going.
It took Chris's gag cartoon brain to make me see that. Yeah, they stopped free returns in 2024. Yeah. Well, that stinks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I didn't make it to the comic book shop this week. Also, there was no comics waiting for me. So I know if I headed there, it would have been like I probably would have picked up a whole bunch of different things. I was like, did I need these? And it was like, no, I have books waiting for me next week, so I'll pick up books on Wednesday.
I picked up a few things. Let's see what I got. The latest Cerebus in Hell. And I got to say, this issue was pretty good. It was different in that it wasn't stripped. It was like full pagers. And he really didn't have to tell jokes. Because this whole issue is about the history of Marvel Man, Miracle Man, Captain Marvel, and all the iterations of Captain Marvel. So it was just about that. Like, he dedicated a whole page to the legal battle over Miracle Man / Marvel Man. And who owns what? And he really didn't have to make a lot of jokes because the situation for most of them is so funny.
Right.
This turning into that, this guy buying this. There's 2 more Ms. Marvels. Though, once again, I don't know what the hell is up with Dave Sim and black characters. Because once again, with this version, the Monica Rambeau version of Captain Marvel, who's black, he started writing it in an Amos and Andy black dialect thing. I, black Marvel man, Vark women, attained my powers the old-fashioned way by sleeping my way to the top with Uncle Thomas Marvel man, Vark, with deep-rooted Jeffersonian plantation owner fantasies. Truth be told, there ain't no Marvel man, Vark a lot. I'm like, Monica Rambeau didn't speak like that.
Not at all. Nor got her powers that way either.
What? And this is the second. I can't remember what the other one I noted was. Really, the black character that he wrote in Amos and Andy black dialect, and I'm like, does he think that's funny in some way? I mean, I don't get it. And he says, walk. And like I think he's meaning to be funny because Cerebus is even saying A, it was a different time period. B, this is so awkward. And it's like, she didn't talk like that.
Yeah, that didn't happen that way, nor her origin. It just that doesn't connect. Where did he even get that information? It sounds like someone that didn't read the comic book went looking for something, found the first thing that they found, and of course on the internet you're going to find the hate stuff. So,
I picked that up. Oh, you got 158 out of 1400. I got 983 out of it's 1430. You round it off. 1430 is not bad. Once again, the cover gag was good because over here it says the complete history of Captain Marvel, Marvel Man, Miracle Manvark, all the origins, all the genders, which ones are owned by Neil Gaiman and which ones aren't. And over here it says, "Gosh, I hope I'm owned by Neil Gaiman." And then for some reason, he makes fun of Chris Claremont in it too. There's a Chris Claremont picture. Of course, makes fun of the Wonder Woman raped in space story. Because how could you not Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. So it was actually an amusing issue. Well, he didn't actually have to try so hard because the history of those characters is so amusing. And next issue, it looks like we get an Akira parody, Akimbo, or old Japanese comics in general, because those characters don't look like Akira.
No, not at all.
They look like I can't remember, from the 80s stuff. Dave Sim is an odd one. He sure is. Hamilton, Ontario is a dull, white, giant suburb full of boring white people. Ed Sim's odd mindset. You have your answer on why that horrible stuff is in his shitty book.
No, bro.
All right.
Felt like Mike Trout. Felt like Guinness Stout.
Uh-oh.
What else are you out like?
Felt like a 10-round.
A weird thing. Like all these books I got for Christmas are from my Amazon wish list. It's like, when I put I always have a bunch of stuff on my wish list, and that's what my family gets me for, Christmas and birthdays. And some stuff, I don't know where I heard. I got this Stream of Consciousness, The Art of Boris Pelser, which isn't really a comic book, but it kind of looks comic book-ish. But it's just a little, I think it's a print-on-demand book of some random guy's art. I don't know where I heard of this, but I thought it looked pretty cool, and it's a neat book. There we go. And it's, black and white pen and ink, so it's kind of vaguely comic book-ish. There's some op art stuff. But it's a neat little book. The ink art of Boris Pelser.
Looks pretty cool.
Actually, there's a little bio on him in the back. It says, Boris Pelser, born 1985, Sarajevo, Bosnia, SFR, Yugoslavia, is a visual. We need Paolo to tell me what SFR Yugoslavia is, or former Republic, Soviet former Republic of Yugoslavia. I guess in 1985, Bosnia was still Yugoslavia. Is a visual artist based out of the USA. He creates his work as a way to explore the intangible complexities of human existence. Work is deeply personal, but ultimately his creations aspire to transcend the personal and embrace the universal. Okay. I like the images he makes, so that's a pretty cool one.
That is neat. Yeah.
So I'm glad to have that one. Good stuff. See, another comic I got this week, the latest issue of Local Man, issue number 8. This one did something really cool. Something that I have not seen before. Okay. So Local, his original 90s superhero, he can only call himself Local Man now. That's just kind of a joke that happened because he made it to the newspaper. He's a disgraced superhero. His superhero name was Crossjack, and his superhero powers were similar to Bullseye, and that he throws something and he always hits the mark. He can pick up weapons and use the. I guess he's closest to Bullseye. Except last issue, he went to talk to this weird hippie commune. And the guy started telling him that he was superpowered too, but he had these weird powers. And he's like, and he told Crossjack that you don't even understand your powers. Your power is not just physical. You can always hit the mark. You can figure things out. And then he dosed Crossjack with some LSD. And as he was leaving, he was like, I just totally made all that stuff up to get rid of him. He told his buddy. So it's not necessarily true, but now Local Man / Crossjack believes it's true. And he's coming down from this trip too. And so he slept it off in like his father's backyard. That's where he opened up. But he's discovering there may be some truth to that because he goes to he's got to go to the local archive to get information on some property. So he goes to the local government archive to get something. But the guy who's working at the archive is a cop who he just pissed off. But he's like, no, I can hit the mark on this. And he starts getting these weird, like, Spider-Man waves around him. I don't know if you can see them.
Yes.
And he starts figuring out just the right thing to say to this guy. And he's like, ooh, it's my power. I know I can say the right thing. So he ends up saying the right. Now, this could all just be suggestion in his mind. We don't know if it's his actual power, since the guy who told him it was just making it up. But so he goes through the rest of the book. There's some of that power working again when he's just kind of figuring out how she feels. So it's not, he could just be paying attention rather than being self-involved like he's been his whole life. So we don't know if it's really a power or not. But the strange thing came when he's trying to figure out who's behind this stuff that's been going on in town. And his ex-girlfriend is married to this sheriff. So he starts to think it's the sheriff. And he's also having an affair with his ex-girlfriend in town, too, that the sheriff doesn't know about. Because he still has feelings for his ex-girlfriend. So then stuff happens where he's talking to the sheriff. And the sheriff's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not behind anything. And then weird things happen with this old superhero here coming out of the water. But then the cool thing that happens, let me show you. He starts to figure out that it's his girlfriend is kind of behind this. And he starts tripping again. So if you look here, he falls off the page and starts walking through the image info, bullpen bulletins page. And then the last couple of pages, he's coming to the realization, walking through the ads in the back of the book. And then this one is like a flip book where there's another story on the other side. So he starts walking through the end of the flip book story too. Until he comes to the realization. So he's really going on this, as part of his LSD trip he's going on, where he's having this realization. And he starts walking through the ads. I was just like, wow, that is so cool. Yeah. That is just that's like a storytelling gimmick that really worked for me. Because I've never seen it before.
Oh, then you weren't reading John Byrne's She-Hulk.
Oh, you're not telling me that John Byrne's She-Hulk messed with the actual ads, are you?
Yes. She jumped out. To speed through the story, she jumped out and went through the Mile High ad. And then jumped in on the other side.
So they got Chuck Krasinski to in on that. Okay.
So she had went through the Mile High ad.
I mean, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier when you're in charge of the ads in the back.
Yes. So she walked across the ad.
Okay.
To the other part, to the next part of the story.
They must have had Chuck Krasinski in on that, I would guess.
They did that. There have been times where they would break the fourth wall, and she would want to go after John to strangle him, and the other character would stop her and go, "No, it's too late. We're already in print. You're just going to go after a fan."
Yeah, there was no fourth wall breaking in that.
Right. But
It was all his part of his trip.
right. And I think Gwenpool
Yeah, it
has
was
done
one
that
way of doing it.
as well.
Well,
I've
they don't
walked
have
across.
ads in comics anymore, so or they
Right. So I
do.
don't.
They're all house ads.
Yeah, I think she walked across an ad, but I most likely would have been a house ad. But I
Because I
think
could
they
tell
did it
you,
in Gwenpool.
we were not allowed. We never even saw the ad pages in house, so they had to have cleared that with Chuck Rosansky, or else put the pages in without him paying for them. They could
Right.
have done that too, because you could not mess with the ad pages, even if you wanted to.
Right. I think
That Marvel.
the closest I ever seen them messing with ad pages were occasionally they would do half ads where the story kind of I think DC did that a lot, where the story
Yeah,
continued on either the top or the bottom,
that was
and then
always
there was an
weird.
ad, and it was just
Like the late
odd how they
'60s,
would
early
cut.
'70s, something. They do something like that. What are you working on tonight, Chris?
Commissions.
Commission?
Right now I'm doing I'm doing a recreation of Speedball #2 cover. No logos or trade dress. You can't
Speedball
really see
number 2. That seems like an odd one. I don't.
can't see the pencils, but I'm in the middle of inks.
Okay. What are you inking
What
with?
else? Mostly I ink with these guys. What are they
Okay.
called? The zebra pens.
Zebra pens.
Yeah,
Now, do you refill them?
I do.
Okay.
But to do that, you gotta I take the
Take the back off. Yeah. And get the
the back
sponge
off
out.
and just Well, I leave the sponge there. I just drop in ink.
Okay. I usually pull the sponge out just to make it easier. But I guess you don't really have to.
I'll try that next time because I like that works pretty well for a while, and then it just gets too clogged up.
That's why you've got to get Ultra Draw, Rapidograph, Technical Pen ink. This stuff, Technical Pen ink has glycerin in it, which is a surface tension breaker and allows the ink to flow better through technical pens. And I found it works really, really well refilling any pen. It never clogs up over time, as opposed to the other ink I used that clogged up over time. So I started using this stuff. But if you can get yourself some Rapidograph ink available at Dick Blick or wherever, this stuff is much better for refilling those pens. It flows better.
I'm writing all that down because
Ah,
I do like using Rapidograph ink,
yeah.
but I
Did
haven't
Sandman
refilled.
have fake ads in it that had to be recalled because of slander? Oh, I don't remember that at all.
No, that was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Ah, okay.
Because he had full control of the ads, and he made up ads. He made it look like the penny, the the um, the penny novels, old ads,
Uh,
and he
I,
wrote
re-
something about Marvel in one of them.
I recall the Kurt Busiek and George Perez Avengers that had a parody of the Hostess Pie ads. Yeah, I've seen parodies of those over the years. I have no idea where I've seen them.
Yeah,
But I know they've showed up as parodies. Chris is a hardworking man, says Mind the Comics. Friday evening, all of us just chilling, and Jeruso doing his stuff. The day never ends when you're Chris Jeruso. When do you usually
Honestly,
stop work? Are you a morning person or an evening person, would you say?
I'm more naturally evening person, but I've
Okay.
I've been getting up. I get up at like 8:30 nowadays,
Yeah.
so it's kind of early for me, but it's still not
Okay.
early as like a person who has a real job.
Right.
But I've
What time
been
is
putting this stuff off for a while. I've been kind of procrastinating on this, and when I get on with you guys, it helps me just lock in and just like power through.
you can ignore us? gives you something to ignore.
You put me in
And
the
still be
zone.
involved. The zone. I'm a big fan of that ink. It's archive ink and cheap. I use it for. I don't find it's particularly cheap. I mean, this 3/4 ounce bottle is $6. I mean, I pay $18 for one of those quart bottles. But you know, $6 isn't particularly expensive either. But yeah, this, like I said, this is my favorite stuff to refill pens with. Matter of fact, I got some new ink for Christmas. Where is it? I haven't opened it yet. It's black sumi ink. So it's Japanese Yasutomo from Torrance, California. Straight from California, this Japanese ink. So I'm going to try that out, but I haven't yet. The one thing I noticed, I'm going to have to, for the last couple of years, I buy it in 3-packs. It makes it cheaper. Okay. For the last couple of years, I've been using Dick Blick. Yep, I knew you meant cheaper. I've been using Dick Blick Black Cat ink, or Dick Blick, whatever it is, ink, and I've been liking that. But recently, I bought 2 different new inks. Where is it? I bought New York Central ink, and I bought Speedball Super Black.
Ooh, okay.
But I really haven't tested these out yet. And I discovered I'm going to have to, because I put those in these little glass bottles. There's New York Central. And I'm not sure which one I use. Like I said, use it for my Dreams of Things covers. That I then go in ink with marker over top of the India ink. Instead, I've been using Super Black. It's been fine. Then I decided to try out one of these new inks. Worked fine in the ink stage. But then I noticed that as I was coloring it with the markers, it was picking up some of the black pigment from the black line. Because usually when I use the Blick ink, it picks up no pigment. So it doesn't like taint my marker color with black. But with either New York Central or the Super Black, or one of them, I was getting too much pickup from the black pigment, and it was going into the color. And I was like, "Oh, this isn't good." I'm like, I wish I knew which ink I
Which
inked
one?
it with. So now I'm gonna have to do some tests just to see which of them, if any of them pick up the black, because then I'll know I can't use those with that particular ink and marker over top of it. But this stuff also goes fine with marker over top of it.
Which ink?
What was that? Oh, the
Which ink?
Rapidograph ink. This goes fine with marker over top of it too.
Okay. That'll be helpful.
Yeah. Like it works much better for refilling pens and things, because like I was having the same problem with, using the Dick Blick ink. Is it would work for like 4 or 5 refills, then it would start clogging up the pen because it didn't have that surface tension breaker in it. Mm-hmm. A couple other comics I got for Christmas was some Bernie Miro stuff. Super cool color injected Turbo Adventures from Hell, #2. That's this one. And Beginnings. This is a reprint of some of his 80s comics. And this is some new jam stuff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bernie Miro. Mireault. Rhymes with zero when you say it. I didn't find that out till many, many years later after being a fan of his.
When were those printed?
These are new. I think these are print on demand. You can get them from Amazon. He just made him available. I think like he's on Facebook, and a lot of his and I follow him too. And a lot of his fans were like, "Yeah, put that stuff back in print." So he's been working on get it back in print. So this is from 2022, this collected edition. But like I said, I think it's print on demand stuff. And this is also from 2022.
The red cover looks so familiar that I thought maybe that was in the comic book shops at one point in time, but
Oh, it was in the like 80s and I think into the early 90s, maybe.
I may have picked some up in the 90s because
Right.
it looks so familiar.
Who put it out? God, I can't even remember. Vortex, and they had a couple of different publishers.
I want to
But
say
always
Kitchen
one of my
Sink, but
favorites.
I don't recall.
And it's just about this guy right here, the Jammer, is just sort of a normal guy who wants to be a superhero. And it's just like kind of in our world. So he hangs out. Hangs out in his costume and does good deeds. That's all.
Neat.
Really one of my favorites. It's fun stuff. Bernie Miro also did some issues of Grendel.
Okay.
He did the Blair Witch adaptation, there was a Blair Witch comic like after the movie, like in the late 90s that he did some of too. So always one of my favorites. Hasn't done a lot of work in recent years because I don't think he was ever that successful. The Jam teamed up and was with Dark Horse for some issues. That's right. There was like a Jam Madman team up, was it? With Mike Allred?
Maybe that's where I recall it from because I was buying Madman at the time.
I think that it may have been that. And here we go. The latest 3 of 3 of Dwellings. Jay Stevens. And I love his
Harvey style artwork.
Right. The Harvey style artwork, but a horror book. His Not for Kids or Cowards comics code thing there. And this got some fake ads on it. And it looks like a Harvey comic, but it's horror. And it's adult horror. There's blood and guts in it. And it's a $10 comic. Probably a 44-page thing, I would guess. And it's got 2 stories in it, but which makes me there's a hardcover coming out, probably for the same price as these issues. But on the bottom of the hardcover, it says, collecting all 6 sinister issues of Dwellings in one horrifying hardcover collection. I'm like, there's only 3 issues of it. But each issue has like 2 comics in it. I wonder if they're counting that as 6 comics. I just found that funny. But the first story is, I mean, there's just so much blood and guts in it. The first story is a woman, there she's getting punched in the face by a cop. In the beginning, we see someone being tortured. Blood and guts tortured. Then they switch to this woman who's running away from cops and carnies and stabbing them. And we find out she's been trafficked. So she's a sex worker trying to get away from these pimps. And then at the end, we find out it was her being tortured at the beginning, and she dies. It's like people just die in this too. It's like people just get shot and die in this horror book. And the second story is about this kid. It switches between his kid life with his therapist is trying to find out the horrible things that happened to him in his kid life. So he's telling her the stories about the horror of his kid life, and there's horror happening in his adult life, and it's another horror story. So this has been a good series. I have a couple of like random books over the years by Jay Stevens, but I think he's been around since the 90s, but I never really bought any comics by him until here. Oni Press. But really nice stuff. Chris would like Jay Stevens stuff.
I think I've read some of his stuff,
Yeah.
like Rocket, something like Jetpack Comics or something.
I don't
Did
even
he do that?
know. Carl Bowlers told me he remembered his stuff from the 90s. But I don't. Let's see. That issue you have is reprinting of Dwellings 5 and 6. So there was Dwellings 1 through 6 already? And these are reprinting those? Interesting. I didn't know they could. The Dwelling sounds like something you should read. Yeah. Jet Cat. Did you Jet Cat? Do you remember that,
Jet
Chris?
Cat. Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I've seen a title, something called Jet Cat Comics Clubhouse.
So was this so if this was issue 5 and 6, was it like a Kickstarter first? Oni Lion Forge Publishing. I wonder if it was Kickstarted first. But that happens sometimes. May have come out as like 6 issues on Kickstarter. And then Oni picked it up for that, and then it's going to do a hardcover. I don't know why they didn't just do a hardcover, but who knows? But that was, like I said, good stuff. It was a good week for comics for me. All good stuff. Oh, this I find an interesting concept. It's Grendel, Devil by the Deed Masters Edition by Matt Wagner and Brendan Wagner. Have you guys read Devil by the Deed, the original Grendel story from the mid-'80s?
I read bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I read through the whole thing.
Those issues are from Black Eye. Okay, the original Dwellings were from Black Eye Books Press, according to what I am seeing. Okay. It originally appeared in the back of Mage. It's not quite a comic book, and it's like comic book storytelling with text next to it. So all the words are actually in captions, but there's definitely comic book storytelling going on in the pictures. And to me, like the original Grendel Devil by the Deed is a classic, 5-star book in my rating system. So Matt Wagner, and I still like the original coloring best, but you know it's gone. And I think it's even recolored, and they've collected it in like a recolored edition before, a couple different recolored editions. Now we've got a new recolored edition with new story pages, featuring 120 all new story pages. So he's taking what I would consider a classic comic and like changing it. I find that interesting. He's like doing something new with Devil by the Deed. And I'm like, oh, I really find that interesting that someone would, like, he was a young man when he did Devil by the Deed. You know, came out in the mid 80s. So what is that, 35 years later, redoing it, I think is kind of an interesting idea. Might not like it as much as the original. I don't know. Well, matter of fact, I saw a page in there that looks like it's from another Grendel story. So I really look forward to this, not only because I like Matt Wagner's work, but because I find it an interesting concept that someone would do that. He did Atomic City Tales. The Atomics was all red. Atomic City Tales. Eric, what's his name? I just forgot his name.
Mike Ulrich?
Stevenson. Jay Stevens did Atomic City Tales. Okay, I don't know that. Like I said, I have one weird thing. I have a couple of weird collected editions. I don't remember the name of that he's done. That's the only place I know him from. Tonight, brought to you by ChrisGComics.com. Around since 2004. What year did you get your website, ChrisGComics.com, up? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I'm going to say, yeah, probably 2004.
Yeah. Certainly not later than that. What comic would you like to see? What's some of your favorite comics that you'd like to see added to by the same creator?
Is that directed at all of us?
Yeah, it's directed at both of you. And anybody who wants to answer.
I would want to revisit Madman. Mike Aldred.
Mike
I
Allred?
I really enjoyed it, but I always felt that it just because it had so many, it always like popped up as miniseries here and there.
Right.
So I don't think I ever actually got the full story. And I would go back and look for stuff, and I think some of it was in black and white, some of it was in color. It really depended on who they were publishing with. Then he did some stuff with Steve Rude. It was like
Right.
some crossover type things going on, and he had various costumes over the years as well. But I don't know if I ever got a full completed story.
Well, there is an omnibus of it, but that's not quite the same. I'm talking
Right.
more about
But
well, I
going back
said,
and revisiting,
Wilson, just pick up the 4 Madman omnibuses he put out. I'm
I
thinking
had
more of like a classic story in your head that you're like, I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see this person or persons take on their own classic story and expand it somehow. Like, I think the original Grendel Devil by the Deed was only like 40 pages or something.
right.
Not particularly long. Like, one thing I can think of is Byrne and Claremont going back and doing Days of Future Past.
Okay.
Something like that. Like Byrne and Claremont today going back and giving us, because it was only 2 issues, 120-page graphic novel of Days and Future Past. What would they do? Incorporating the same stuff they already did. Just kind of making it bigger. Because that's what he did here with Grendel. He just made it bigger. I don't know.
Right.
I haven't actually read it, so I don't know. But there's more pages of it. Could be a single issue.
I mean, I guess all I can think of is what would Eric Larson do if he had like more space to add stuff to Old Savage Dragon, but I don't think he would want to do that. He's always like moving forward.
The creator, I don't think Byrne and Claremont would ever do that either. That's why we're just speculating.
But Byrne's kind of doing like, here's more of old X-Men.
But he wouldn't want to. I don't think. Well, certainly not with Claremont. He wouldn't want to go back and revisit that same story. Say 62 Lefty Blues. Say, how about Frank Miller with Dark Knight? Oh wait, scratch that. Swamp Thing by Moore, Tettleman, Beach. Yeah, you have to pick like one Swamp Thing, not just sort of continuing with it, but pick like one Swamp Thing story that you'd like to see more. Like I would like to see more of that very original Swamp Thing story where like issue 22, 23, and 24, right around there. See, would really like to see more of Harsh Realm, but James D. Hudnall passed away. Yeah, that makes it harder for sure. Love to see that team hit it again. Yeah, Byrne and Claremont. My first thought would be want more Richard Sala. Yeah. But for classic story arc issues, I would always say Astro City #2 is near perfect superhero. And I want that issue expanded. Yeah, something like that. That's what I'm thinking. Hello, YouTubians. Hello there, Splash Page Comics. How are you doing, Mr. White Gloves? Yeah, I don't remember Astro City #2. I remember #1 had like the Superman story. Can't remember what #2 had.
Nothing comes to mind for me.
Yeah. That's because it's such a
But
weird thing.
It's just, yeah.
Astro City #2 is the reporter seeing the shark invasion. Okay, Eric P. It's such a weird thing. Like
The
I never
closest
thought of it before.
the closest thing I ever thought to that, but not exactly that, was that I've always wanted, and unfortunately we could never have it now, it was a Neil Adams Daredevil story.
Okay.
Because of how, yeah, everyone wanted him back on Batman.
Right.
And I felt, well, he told what he wanted to tell on Batman, but I would like to have seen him do something like that with Daredevil. 'Cause that was although, everyone says Dark is really the Marvel's Batman is really Moon Knight, but I always thought he would have done so well on
Mhm.
Daredevil. Would be kind of like one of those dream projects that I had always wished
Right.
would happen but never did. Um, but as far as anyone else kind of revisiting something, a storyline, they're kind of doing that with Secret Wars, but it's not the same creative team.
Right, right. That's a different thing
Yeah, so
entirely.
that's something else different entirely. As much as I would like to have Mike Zeck back on like a Marvel project like that.
Right, that's a
Um,
different thing entirely too. Like it's normal to kind of go, "Oh, I want to see more Secret Wars from Mike Zeck."
yeah,
It's just completely different to take sort of your classic story and redo it. That's
right.
that that doesn't get done too often.
Not at all. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a good question. Because then you got like, would if someone like the original creators of Superman years later revisit the origin and started anew now that he has all these new powers and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that, knowing that history, what would they've put onto it if they started from issue one again?
Huh.
What would they have kept? Um, yeah, I don't know.
It's a strange idea, that's for sure. Because most of the stuff you love, you don't need redone.
Right. Like, could you have McFarlane relaunch Spawn from issue number one, knowing what the last 300 issues were? Can you start it anew with the
Well, he
same
did
kind
that.
of
He just did
character?
that like 2 years ago with 5 new Spawn books.
Right, but he's not really like you still have that original history, so he's not
Yeah,
starting it anew like with the Grendel stuff.
right.
Interesting.
Was it this question is more like you'd be doing the same story, though. Like, this isn't a new story, this is the Devil by the Deed story, sort of the origin of well, I haven't actually read it yet. The origin of Hunter Rose/Grendel and his battle with Argent the Wolf.
Right.
So, I would like to see the next version of Once and Future and have them move through more famous English literature and figures. That was a good series. I enjoyed that one a lot. Yeah. Eric P. Didn't the classic X-Men book do something by adding additional story pages to the original issues? I think they did. I think you might be right there. I never read those, but they did something similar, but it wasn't the original people. It was
Yeah, it was additional because it was like a reprint book with some extra stuff in it.
right. That was a classic
X-Men
when
Classics.
they broke the issues up into 2 issues
Right.
and added stuff into it. The classic X-Men stuff. It's a strange thing. Huh.
Well, now that I'm thinking about this more about Larson,
Yeah.
he kind of has done that when he would go to collect things.
Uh-huh.
Like
Oh, that's
he
what he'll.
reworked that miniseries like a couple of times
Oh,
because
okay.
he did the first 3 issues he collected in a trade, but when he did that, he changed the order of the pages.
Mm-hmm.
The original 3 issues had a lot of flashback sequences and flash
Right.
forwards. So he reshuffled everything so it was just all in chronological order for the trade. Then he re-released the trade in single issues, but instead of 3 issues, it was 5 issues. So there was extra pages added in to pad out those 5 issues.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I know.
he does do stuff like that.
Right. Because that was his earliest stuff that didn't make a lot of sense to him. Lord Tatman says, I have the slipcase hardcover of Once and Future, but haven't opened it yet. Oh, I didn't realize there was a slipcase hardcover of that. But I enjoyed the series. Though I did get a slipcase hardcover for Christmas, and it's a Simpsons slipcase hardcover with a die cut in the slipcase.
Oh, nice.
So it's the aliens looking at the Simpsons in the die cut. And what's interesting is they there's the let me give you a good look at it. I bought some of these Simpsons comics, but I never bought it regularly. But they were usually pretty good. Here's the book itself. There's what's inside. And they were usually, like I said, they were pretty well done comics by some talent. So I saw this came out and I put it on my wish list. And they also, I think every year they put out a Treehouse of Horror, just like the show did, a comic book annual. And they didn't, for this omnibus, they didn't just like print it in like this. I don't think this is the like Treehouse of Horror 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They picked their favorite stories and grouped them because like one type of stories is Invaders from Beyond. The other type of story is Technology Run Amok. So I guess there's Trick or Terror, Chilling Killer Thrills, From the Shadows, Parallel Parables. So I guess those are parallel Earths. And it's like under Invasion from Beyond, we have first story is from 1999, Heebie Jeebie Hullabaloo. The second story is from Treehouse, number 1, 95. Story from Treehouse number 2, 96. Then Treehouse number 4. Then Treehouse number 3. Then Hoodoo Voodoo Broohoo 2006. Then Heebie Jeebie Hullabaloo 1999. So it's like the stories are like from all over. I think in the back they have a creator index, they said. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Creator index. Laura Allred, Mike Allred, Sergio Aragones, Chris Bonham, Pat Stone, Ian Boothie, Dan Brereton, Jacob Chabot. Pencils and Inks of page 189. Let's see.
All right.
What's Jacob Chabot's? Oh, there he is. That's 289. Pardon me. Well, at least they gave us page numbers on some of the pages. 188. There we go. Bart and Lisa, The Red Menace. Jacob Chabot, Pencils and Ink. So we get a Jacob Chabot story in here.
Very cool.
Who teamed up with Chris Geruso for G-Man and Skullboy Army.
Yes.
1 degree of separation from this hardcover Simpsons collection.
I think at one point Bongo Comics was being distributed by Marvel.
Yeah.
It was a Marvel connection for a little while.
This is printed by Abrams Comic Arts, since I don't think Bongo exists anymore.
Probably not.
And I know they're a book publisher who publishes a bunch of comic stuff. I've gotten things from them before, I'm pretty sure. I need to put up some new shelves to put some stuff on. I'm gonna put up shelves in this hallway back here, up above the doors, because that space is just not being used. It's just a
Right.
pass through hallway, and way up here I can put shelves above the doors. There's enough room. Utilize some of that space.
Yeah.
Like Chris, he's got shelves everywhere with toys on them.
Yeah, shelf it up.
Shelf it up. Shelf it up. I'll take it. Let's see another comic from this week. No One, issue number 7. This is the one that's sort of police, is a crime comic. Main characters are police and people investigated, journalists, and I think there's a podcast that goes along with it, which, as we've discussed, seems too much like homework. The story continues is, who is the No One podcast? But who does the podcast? Starring Rachel Lee Cook and Patton Oswalt. So they got some Hollywood people doing their podcast. But very enjoyable comic. Let's see, it's writer Kyle Higgins and Brian Buccellato. Kyle Higgins writes Radiant Black. Artist Antonio Fuso, Fuso. Colorist Mark Englert. And the letterer Hassan Atzmain El Hao. So another good issue of this. Stuff happens. They almost find out who fake No One is. The plot is too complicated to go into. Picture, an ongoing cop investigative reporter TV show, and that's how complicated the plot is. It's like, can't explain it in one moment. I would choose another From Hell with 4 fully negating the previous From Hell and having the killer as another person. That would be interesting. I like that mind the comics. I like that. At one time, SpongeBob and Futurama was comics. Yeah. And it was, I think Chris told me this. Or maybe Jacob did years ago. Like the SpongeBob comic existed because the guy who created SpongeBob loved it. He loved comics, and he was the one who was financing the SpongeBob comic just because he wanted a SpongeBob comic. But then he died young of something.
That sounds partially true.
Yeah.
So he normally when you work with like somebody like Viacom or any production company, they own everything.
Right.
But he retained the rights to the publishing.
Okay.
And I think I remember at the time thinking, like, everyone was thinking that's pretty, wow, he still has the publishing rights. But I think that's actually kind of common too.
Right.
Because publishing is such an impossible game, it is not considered anything of value.
When you're in TV, in movies.
I think so. But I think SpongeBob Comics was originally published in the Nickelodeon magazine.
Uh-huh.
And then when Nickelodeon magazine folded, then what's his name?
Yeah, I don't know his name, the creator of SpongeBob.
I forget, but I think that's when he started self-publishing it.
Okay. Nickelodeon.
Or I guess joining forces with Bongo, because I think it was always with Bongo.
Might have been.
And I probably have some of those details wrong. See, that's why we need Greg or Jacob on here.
We had Greg on here once and Jacob never. Oh well, we can hope to one day get the full story.
Steve Hillenberg, I think, is his name.
Steve Hill. I just remember. I remember when he died. Well, I forget what some rare cancer or something, and he wasn't that old. Let's see. Eric P said that comic, Public Domain, is about a creator who just wants the rights to make a comic of his. I saw that title, but I don't pick it up. There's a comic called Public Domain right now. Yeah, the comic's about a creator who just wants the rights to make a comic of his creation. I remember seeing that either on the shelves or somewhere. Maybe just the name of it. But I don't know if I've seen the actual comic. Let's see. Another comic that continues to surprise me is Tony Daniels' Edenwood #3. And I say it surprised me because I'm not really that familiar with Tony S. Daniel. I know he's been an artist for DC for a couple of decades. I know he had a pretty well-received Batman run recently, and I know he's a pretty well-received artist. But this is the first time I've seen him write something ever, and he's doing a good job with the writing. It's a fantasy story. Imagine our world, but all of a sudden some magical world starts expanding in our world. Like Edenwood is the name of the like just some woods grow, and there's elves and magic users and everything, and they just expand in our world, of course, taking up whatever land was then. I don't know what's going on in the rest of the world because they mentioned something about it's new to the United States, but the rest of the world was like taken over a lot of it. And in the beginning, our characters are kids, and they accidentally get swallowed up by the expansion of this Edenwood. But then there's so much like time jumping in this now. It's interesting, the storytelling, because here we go. 3 years, because what happens is this group of kids gets caught in the Edenwood, but time moves differently in Edenwood. So even though they entered nearly at the same time, it was minutes apart, and they went in different directions. And there's different parts of Edenwood that move at different times. So now, like, one of them is still pretty young, and the other's like 3 or 4 years have passed by. And then we flash back to 3 years ago to what happened to this one kid when he was younger, who we now saw older. And then it flashes. So it's like, and the art is nice, the storytelling is good, and I've liked the writing. I gotta say, even with all this time flashing back and forth, it's pretty simple to follow. But I never would have guessed that, Tony S. Daniel would be a good writer, just because I've never heard of him writing anything before. And I'm liking it better than I liked Nocterra, which was written by Scott Snyder, who, writes full time, and Tony S. Daniel drew. So I got to say, I've been impressed with this book. If you like a good fantasy story, check out Edenwood. Have you guys read much Tony S. Daniel?
I've seen his artwork more. I knew him from his Marvel days because he started at Marvel.
What did he do at Marvel?
He did X-Force, and then he did Gambit and the Externals. Then he left to go to Image, and he was doing some Spawn stuff, like Spawn 38 through 48.
Okay.
So, then he did his own book at Image called The Tent. Which he was writing. So he did a bunch of those issues, and then he went over to DC. So I knew Tony way back when because I was working the conventions department.
Okay.
And it was like he was just starting out, so he was going to all the cons with us, so we would hang out and stuff like that. You
All
done
right,
with
let's
that
see
one?
what Chris has. Hold on, let me go solo for him. He's getting stuff done. Who's that blobby guy down the bottom?
That's the
Graffitier,
sticker or
No,
something
I
like
think it's
that.
I think it's graffiti.
Hang on.
I think it's called a graffiti. It starts with a G.
And sticker does not start with a G.
While he's looking for that, yeah. So Tony, right before he left Marvel, like I said, I was working in the conventions department. So I had him create a poster for us for a giveaway. This is back in 19. I can't even see the date on it. I think 94 or 95. So this was the poster that we gave out at the conventions at Marvel for that
Okay.
year.
That's a
So
Tony S. Daniels poster?
So it's Tony's pencils, inked by Kevin Conrad, who was the main inker at the time for him. And then it was colored by, I want to say Tom Tenney, I think was the colorist. He airbrushed this over blue line,
Oh, okay.
and it was like the first poster that I got to design for Marvel, and it was a
Oh,
giveaway. And I
cool.
actually own the original art. Tony gave it to me as a gift because
Oh, wow.
I wanted one of the X-Force covers, but he had pre-sold some of them. So
Ah.
it's like, okay. So that was like his last piece of Marvel work. Where
And
he,
where is that original art?
it is in my closet right now because the frame that I had for it got moved and broke. So the glass on it broke. So I have the artwork in a closet right now, so it's protected. So I eventually would need to get it reframed so I could put it up because I used to have it hanging up in my older apartment. I had it hanging up here, but it got moved and then the glass broke on it. So I was like, okay, I don't want to mess up the artwork, so I removed it from the frame and then I stuck it in the closet for now until I get it framed.
Okay.
I have some answers for you.
Okay.
The cover copy says stuck with the sticker and grappling the graffiti gorillas. But it doesn't make it clear if that guy is one of the graffiti gorillas or the sticker. But he's kind of got a goopy covering on him, so I assume he's the stick. Like you stick to him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the graffiti gorillas are also in the issue.
Right. I remember the
Exactly.
name, the graffiti
Yeah.
part of Gorillas, so that's why I thought
Mhm.
it was.
The graffiti
'Cause
gorillas.
I don't believe we ever saw those characters again. Because I went to look up issue 2 myself, and it's like I have no real memory of it. I know I own it because I picked
Ah.
up Speedball at the time, but it was like
Yeah,
no memory of that
yeah,
cover
I
or
don't
issue.
recognize that cover at all. Was Steve Ditko drawing that cover? Was
It was Steve Ditko, inked by Bob Layton.
okay. How long did Steve Ditko draw Speedball for?
Don't know.
I want to say 8 issues, but I'm not positive. Let's see.
I have a vague memory of it, but I never really looked at it that closely. That was during the later Steve Ditko Everybody Wants to Income period.
Yep.
Well, I
Time he
think
was even working. He was working on Power Rangers too.
the cover to issue 2 was kind of really interesting for me to look at and realize that I think bad choices were made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what? What would you have done differently?
Well, do you have an image of it?
I do not.
All right. Well, okay. There is a foreground wall Okay, I can show you at least mine.
Right.
See how he's heading towards this foreground wall,
Mm.
and it's black. I added some just like some detail on the wall just to give it some
Okay.
more perspective or whatever. So the original cover, it's solid black, which is fine, but then behind him, there's also black, like shadow, and it kind of the two black elements interfere with each other and destroy the illusion of depth.
Okay.
Because they kind of unite, and one is supposed to be way in the background, one's supposed to be way in the foreground, and then also the inking of his trail that he leaves in his wake as he the way that intersects the black background is also it just looks, it's hard to explain. It'd be so easy just if you just had if you just looked at
You
the
want me to
picture.
find it? Oh, I think I just muted him accidentally.
So there was 10 issues of the Speedball comic and Ditko's run. By the looks of it. And it looks like he did all 10 issues.
Let me look up Speedball #2 cover.
You also get more options if you put Ditko's name on it, because
Oh yeah.
otherwise you'll get modern versions of the series.
In the private chat, I put a link to one of the images that I found online, if that helps you.
Open image in new tab. Okay. Let me present. Share screen. Share screen. Window. There we go. There is Speedball the Masked Marvel stuck with the sticker and grappling the graffiti gorillas.
So his left hand, let's look at that. So there's like speed line trails coming off of his arm,
Okay.
and you get speed lines that only overlap the black background and cease to exist.
Yes. Those speed lines should extend into the space, that light purple space.
And if anything, it should just obliterate the black behind it, as it does by his legs.
Okay.
So you'll see there's black coming down the right side of the image.
Yeah.
That gets cut through. So that's I'd say the most.
Yeah, that's just a weird technical glitch kind of thing.
It's also not clear. Like, is the sticker? Did he throw him?
Yeah. I see what you
mean. It doesn't look quite like a follow through kind of a pose.
Right.
But the speed lines tell me, well, okay, there's some motion line that goes directly to his arm, while other motion line follows Speedball's trail. And then I also
was definitely passed through by the front of him, but was the sticker trying to grab him as he went by?
It looks more like a grabbing pose.
Yeah.
But I suspect it might be he's throwing him. Although if he's the sticker, why would he think?
No, I don't think he's throwing him. I think that
he's reaching and missing.
He was trying to grab him and missed. But maybe that see that, I guess it's supposed to be a goo splat. Sort of like
on
right
him
where Speedball was in front of him. That's
no, I think that's a bounce, I think.
Is that a bounce?
I think I'm calling that a bounce.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the speedball bounce. I agree as well.
See, not knowing sticker, I don't know if that's like a splat. You're right. If it's a bounce, then he's trying to grab him as he goes by, and he's missing him.
Now here's something. As I was drawing mine, I misdrew it completely. I thought Speedball's right hand. I thought he
Says,
was like
wow, that right arm
palming.
looks funky.
It's a funky arm because I thought he was like palming one of those balls,
Ah,
and I drew it that way, and I couldn't get it right, and I'm like, this is such an awkward pose. Maybe I should just like reject. And then I looked closer, and it's not. It's just one of those balls is just overlapping him, and again, it's like a funky tangent thing. His hand is in a different position than I originally thought it was.
because the balloon there gets in the way of us seeing what his hand really looks like. And also those, I think what those blacks in the background are kind of doing, they're trying to get us make it feel like we're looking down on this scene. The problem is, I think Speedball is overlapping the black, which kind of breaks the if you're thinking from a graphic design perspective, that black makes it look like we're looking down on the scene, like through a window in the roof. But
Yeah.
his hand breaking over that black kind of breaks that illusion.
Well, he could be coming out through the top of it.
It bends the space. He could be, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense as an actual physical space is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
So that's why I went like this with it. Well, you don't have to put that up, but
though I really can't figure out why someone would commission you to do this particular cover.
well,
Do you
here's
have like
why.
a nostalgic
I think
feeling to this cover?
well, so I think aside from the way the blacks are, like it's otherwise it's a pretty compelling image. He's like bouncing around the whole page,
Yeah, it's okay.
right?
I think it's okay. If I remember, Speedball #1 had a pretty good cover.
Speedball #1's cover is a very interesting drawing, but it's not what I would say is a great cover.
Let me see if I can find that.
But it's classic Dicko, and it's unquestionably interesting to look at. It just doesn't make a good cover.
I wonder if it's one of those things where the editor did not want to edit him at all, and he just accepted whatever Ditko brought to him or brought to them.
I imagine that was happening a lot. Let's see. Oh, I don't remember this at all. Wow, I don't know what I remember,
You're
but I
probably
don't,
remembering the Ramita cover with the first appearance of Speedball, which was an annual.
maybe
That was I think Speedball was part of that annual where new characters were introduced in all the books.
I don't remember this cover at all.
Right? It's really dynamic action going, but we don't see
Yeah.
the front of Speedball on the first
No, it's a problem, especially
issue
for first
cover.
issue.
Yeah. And then like the that purple, like I guess that's the outside of the like that again, that kind of like it it defeats like the framing that we did have. It kind of blends in with
Well,
our foreground guy.
I'm getting a face and vase thing going on with that because of the colors. That purple looks like a shark's fin.
Yeah.
So it looks like the positive space when it's in fact the negative space.
Right,
And we're
right.
looking back through there.
But
Let
I
me
like
look
that
up.
that figure in the foreground. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
the
you said,
guy being
it's
punched.
a
Yeah.
good drawing. Let me see.
what's funny, for the trade paperback on it, they used the issue 2 cover for it.
It looks more like a first issue image.
Yeah.
Let's see. You're right. This must be what I'm thinking of. Enter Speedball. Guest starring Daredevil, the man without fear. That's the Ramita one.
Yeah. Evolutionary War. That was that crossover from all the annuals at the time. But that might not have been where new characters were introduced in every annual.
Flamingo looking in all there somewhere, but I like the cover. Yeah, I think the image looks better as a cartoony version Chris has. Yeah, I think Chris is doing a nice job with his version.
Well, thank you.
One more thing I got for Christmas. This is big book here. Tops. This is the complete collection of Charles Byro's visionary 1949 comic book series. Michael T. Gilbert, I guess, is the editor on this. And it's must be shot from the comics and blown up. Cleaned up pretty darn nicely. Printed on an off-white paper. And I don't know where I heard of this, but I'd never heard of. I mean, I know Charles Byro. I know he's a golden age artist whose stuff is pretty in demand. But I've never heard of Tops before.
I haven't either.
And I think it's an attempt at a adult comic book in the late 40s. And this is in the original Life magazine size. Okay, so this is the size. It was the oversized magazine presented. It says, what do we got? In the 1940s, artist and writer Charles Byro had a vision. What if comics could tell compelling, grown-up, even sophisticated stories that rivaled radio and the stage and the silver screen? To that end, he gathered together some of the best cartoonists and writers of his day to contribute to a revolutionary publishing project, Tops. The oversized magazine presented a variety of illustories aimed at an adult readership ranging from melodramatic romance to pulpy noir to highbrow literary adaptations, even political propaganda. Alas, Byro's idealistic project proved to be ahead of its time. Tops flopped at the newsstands and the magazine folded after 2 issues.
Oh,
That's why I
okay.
never heard of it.
Yeah.
Fantagraphics Tops collects both issues of this pioneering publication in their entirety, meticulously restored and presented at their original Life magazine size. Rounded out by contextual material by noted cartoonists and comics historians, this collection finally gives Tops its due as a vital step forward in making comics the widely read and respected art form it is today. So I thought that was interesting. Like I said, I'd never heard of Tops before, so I was glad to have gotten that for Christmas.
I wonder if it was the size format that made it fail.
Could be. You never know.
Yeah.
Newsstands didn't know what to do with it. But they had, Life format. Life magazine was in that size, I guess. I don't know how many other magazines were. I do not know. Let's see, a couple other comics from this week. These are my last 2, right? I've got World Tree, number 5 and number 6. You know what's funny about number 5 is this is the one, must be a month or 2 ago now. I bought issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, various printings of, because this was a pretty hot book, like over the summer. And enough people asked me about it here, like, oh, I forget who asked me, are you reading World Tree? And it wasn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this one out. A lot of people say it's good. So I bought 1 through 4 just because they had them there. They weren't first printings. They're like, 6th printing, 5th printing, 3rd printing, 2nd printing. And I was like, and I liked it. It's a cyberpunk novel. I enjoyed it, and so I noticed that like they had like a 5th printing of number 5 in my final order cutoff. So I ordered it, but it never came in. But I put it on my pull list. So issue 6 came out this week, and I asked John, who was working there, it's like, do you have whatever printing it was I ordered of number 5? And he's like, we got plenty of number 5. I'm like, what? he's like, Roy, can you check box whatever, 338, 34? And they had, I guess World Tree was a hot book, so they ordered a bunch of them. So they had like 4 5-packs of number 5 first printings. Like they had 4, and they're like, make that a 3. I guess they sell them in 5-packs somewhere to someone at some time. They're overstock. So they took one out from there, and I got it. So that's how I got number 5 first printing. And it's a cyberpunk story where computer things or computer viruses have come to life and taken over the world and stuff like that. Let's see. Mind the Comic says, Chris, I feel the cover almost looks like 2 panels, the top one and the bottom one. Maybe because of the long speed line. Please take no offense. I like your style. But I guess color will make it all clear. Yeah, for sure. My bad. So, sorry.
I'm not coloring this thing.
Uh-oh.
Well, you don't have to buy
it. Do you know anything about this guy who commissioned it? Is it like, did he say, this is one of my favorite covers? Oh, this is when I first started buying comics?
No, but it's kind of in line with his, like, he likes a lot of like obscure stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm making Quasimodo. No one's ever asked me to draw Quasimodo before. And it's Quasimodo with the Griffin, Quicksand, and Stiltman.
I have no idea who Quicksand is.
It's basically the
Quicksand
Sandman, but it's a girl.
Female Sandman.
Female Sandman.
He was introduced, I want to say, in the
let's go solo on
Thor
Chris.
or Fantastic Four during the Tom and Ron Friends days. Tom DeFalco and Ron Friends.
I recognize Doom Patrol.
Yeah, that's a straight up Doom Patrol cover.
Okay.
Let's see.
Eric P says Quicksand, Sandman, but wet. Kirby-esque Quasimodo, lovely. Who is that?
Super Adaptoid.
Oh, Super Adaptoid.
No,
I don't think I've ever seen
West Coast Avengers.
The West Coast Avengers gimmick of Super Adaptoid is somebody called a completely original character called the Composite Avenger.
Composite Avenger.
He's got a bow and arrow hand.
Bow and arrow arm. Tigra's legs and hands.
The arrow goes into like his metal hand. So what does the bowstring do? Oh,
No, because it goes into the hand, but then
it goes into the hand and it comes out to the forearm. Yeah. And so
so the fletching has to go through that loop-de-loop? Well, that's weird.
I don't know why I have so much trouble putting this in front of the camera. Again, I was cheating off of the original West Coast Avengers cover.
That's just no way to shoot an arrow. That's all. I know you didn't come up with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that arrow is going to fly.
Marvel 2-in-1.
Sasquatch and Thing. I like your Thing. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, it has a good look to it.
Thank you. And then here's one you're probably not going to be able to see that well.
That's the pencil stage.
This is the pencils of. We were talking about Teen Titans earlier.
Right.
This is New Teen Titans number 13, except Cyborg has been swapped out for Blue Devil.
Robot
Robin's been,
Man, right?
yeah, that's Robot Man. Robin's
Blue
been
Devil.
replaced by Amazing Man, and Kid Flash's been replaced by the Creeper.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see the Creeper well.
That issue was my introduction to the Doom Patrol. And it was pretty cool. Introduction to the Doom Patrol, because it was like this forgotten old 60s comic at the time. And is that a cover recreation?
Yeah, this is an amazing. Is it amazing or is it what? I forget now.
It's
I think
Amazing
it might be.
Spider-Man 261.
Red
Oh,
Ghost and
something.
Super Apes.
And the Super Apes, yeah.
That was originally a Ron Friends cover, I want to say.
Mine the comic says Paolo talked about that West Coast Avenger guy some time ago as the most major mashup ever.
Yeah, so these are all for the same guy.
Okay.
So it's kind of
Well,
like
you have, did he commission you at different times for them? And you're just backed up, or did he commission them all at once?
this batch was all at once. Although
Okay.
this one here, this one with Quasimodo and Stiltman
Uh-huh.
is one he asked me to basically homage a piece that I'd done for him before with Gargoyle, Goliath, Jack of Hearts, and Machine Man.
Uh-huh.
So he's like he's deep cuts all over the place, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Wilson, did you get that Stiltman what is it, Legends toy?
The Marvel Legends Stiltman? Yes, on one of my TikToks, I built him.
Yeah, I think I saw it there. I thought that was real cool because you can buy extra legs for them.
Right, because the characters that the legs come with are the red ninjas, the hand. So each time you got one, you got a set of legs. And it can
Huh.
basically go up to about 6 feet before it becomes structurally unstable.
Wow.
So this one I have 1, 2, 3. So these are just 3 ninjas to make these legs. The normal size legs that you would get if you were just to buy the character with just one ninja, if you weren't getting a bunch of ninjas, he would stand a little tall, but he would stand about that height.
Uh-huh.
So if you only bought the set to build him, because he was a builder figure,
Right.
and if you just got one ninja, it's fine. But because I had gotten a couple of ninjas, because the ninjas are what's called army build. You could get a whole bunch of them to get,
Right.
to have them going after Daredevil or Wolverine or whatever. So I had gotten quite a few of them, and even my brother had gotten a red ninja because he wanted one. So he gave me the legs off of his. So you could and the red ninjas were practically peg warmers, so they were easy to find. So I was able to make on the video, the TikTok video I made, it went a lot higher. I think I had at least 2 more set of legs for it. But it's funny putting them down anywhere, you can see how it starts to bend.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's just a vinyl, not vinyl, but a plastic that could bend easily. And then he has a kind of classic look like the
Wow.
Stiltman would, because there's no
can't-
real knee bends or anything like that.
I can't fight him. He's too tall.
Uh-huh. So yeah, so that's the Stiltman.
Pretty wild looking. I thought that was a good idea though for that when I saw they were coming out with it.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I
you can
thought it
make
was a
this-
kind of a neat thing for a character that's a little obscure, but
Yeah.
just wonky enough to work well for a toy.
People have been trying to make Stiltman cool since the 60s, and this is the first time they've succeeded with that toy.
Oh, that Spider-Man cover was issue number 255.
255.
Even a ghost can fear the night.
Dun, dun, dun. Fear the night. Because the night belongs to ninjas.
So that's a Ron Friends and Jr. Joe Rubenstein, maybe.
Maybe. Think he used to sign like that. Now it's a Chris G comic.
I usually just saw that for that I would sign it after Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Do
you're not
I
copying the
wouldn't.
ink.
are you is there a cover image that you get requested to do a lot of, or has it been just all around different kinds?
No, I mean, yeah, it just winds up being a mixed bag.
What is there a cover you've always wanted someone to ask you to commission?
You know, every once in a while, I would see the Marvel. I'd look at the official handbook to the Marvel Universe Deluxe Edition
Uh-huh.
of with John Byrne did all the connecting covers,
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
and I always look at that and I go, oh man, but that's going to be a beast because
Wow, to
there's
draw
so much
all
going
those
on.
characters.
Yeah.
Oh, my order of 1-800 Ghosts has shipped. There is a I think he started a few semesters ago teaching with me down at Pratt. A guy who I think he first published it himself as a mini comic, but then Fantagraphics picked it up, called 1-800 Ghosts. They've always meant to pick up a copy and haven't. So I finally ordered one this week. So I'll be showing that off when I get it, probably with next week's comics. I forget his name. I only met him a couple of times, but I look forward to seeing what he can do. Mm-hmm. There was no comics to pre-order this week, or last week, pardon me. Like usually I tell you, I get an email, usually Friday nights or sometime during the weekend, what comics are coming to my comic shop that Wednesday. And final order cutoff, which means you have to order them before Monday. You have to, just click on a link and order whatever comics you want. I think it was last week. It must be a fifth week or something. 5 weeks from now, maybe the end of. I'll have to check the calendar. Let me see if there's 5 Wednesdays in January, because it was like there was only like one indie company that was shipping comics that week. Like that sounds crazy to me. See, January is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. January 31st is the 5th Wednesday. So it's like there's no comics shipping from Marvel and DC on that Wednesday.
Right.
And anyone else for that matter, except for this one company. Like, what the? That's kind of crazy. I remember when Marvel or DC used to do fifth week events. Do you remember those?
Something like
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
remember what any of them are.
No.
I just
not at all.
remember the idea of them.
I remember Superman. The Superman titles used to be all interlocked, so you're basically getting a weekly book.
Uh-huh.
There was
Yeah.
4 titles going, and then they added a 5th week title specifically, so you would get 52 Superman comics a year.
Ah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, if a comic book ships monthly, that usually means there's 4 Wednesdays in a given month, and it ships on one of them. Some months have a 5th Wednesday, And if your comic book ships on the second Wednesday of the month, third Wednesday of the month, fourth Wednesday of the month, there's nothing to ship on the fifth Wednesday of the month. So that's why they used to have fifth week events every now and then, or else they just ship, Marvel and DC are just shipping no comics January 31st.
Right.
I have 5 books. I'm expecting 131 of them all indie. Yeah. I'm sure I'm getting some too, but I don't know why there was only that one. No, only that one final order cutoff. There wasn't even other indie books there. But And indie books sometimes slip a week. They can do that.
Yeah. One of the other gifts that I got for Christmas is from my sister. And so she got me a gift that both happens to be something that I like and then something that she likes as well. She tends to like building Lego sets, and I don't mind them myself. I have a few, but I haven't
Right.
even built. So for Christmas, she got me an Optimus Prime one.
My sister likes building Lego sets too. Let's see. Optimus Prime.
There's Optimus Prime as a
Optimus
Lego
Prime.
toy. So not only is it a Lego toy, but it's a Transformer toy, and it can transform.
Aha.
Extra pieces and stuff like that.
It's a truck. It's a robot.
And it's Legos. So it's a
Man,
triple
Lego.
changer. So yeah, so I don't know when I'll ever put this together because again, I'm sorry. I'm old school Lego where it was like fairly simple to make. This thing is, I know it's just going to have a ton of instructions, and that's definitely something I should probably record because it's one of those things that, like, once it's built, I don't want to touch it again.
Lord Tatman says, anyone read Fear Agent? I just ordered the new hardcovers that came out. I have read Fear Agent. I really enjoyed it. Here's my weird story about Fear Agent. I have a pull list at my local comic shop. Usually when something goes on my pull list, it almost never comes off because I buy indie books. The same people do indie books every month. And it's not like a Marvel or DC book that all of a sudden gets a creative team on who you don't like. So got Fear Agent on my pull list. I enjoy it. But something that happens is if it turns into, let's see, I ordered those 2. I haven't started reading it yet. Okay. What happens though is if they decide to relaunch whatever book, all of a sudden, like let's say they were making Fear Agent Volume 2. I would have to put Fear Agent Volume 2 on my pull list because Fear Agent Volume 1 is a different book. And that also sometimes is an excuse for jumping off. So somewhere around issue 12, Fear Agent decided to stop being Fear Agent Volume 1 and start being put out in miniseries. That just annoyed me. Because I was like, now I got to look out for a miniseries whenever it comes out. So I was like, screw it. I'm gonna stop reading Fear Agent. I just don't like the idea of it now being a series of miniseries that I have to look out for and can't get on my pull. So they put out maybe 3 miniseries. So let's say another 10 issues. And then decided they were going to go back to being Fear Agent Volume 1. I don't know, around issue 20. So I still have Fear Agent Volume 1 on my pull list. So, of course, it shows up on my pull list. And I'm like, what's this? I'm like, get back to being Volume 1? And Chris, who was running the shop at the time, was like, yeah, they just gave us a big discount. And I tell him this whole story. And he's like, yeah, they just give us a big discount on Fear Agent. Diamond did if you wanted me to order the ones you missed. I'm like, sure, why not? It's on my pull list still. So I then got like the 8 or so issues of Fear Agent that I missed, and it was on my pull list again. And I read all. But what was cool about Fear Agent is like it changed whole concepts like every 6 issues. The end of Fear Agent is like nothing like the beginning conceptually, but it was all really well done, and I enjoyed the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. But I'm glad I ended up reading the whole thing because it was good stuff. And I read it all, the whole thing, all the way through. I think after it ended, like a year later, and enjoyed it all. It held up well. Just kind of reading it all as one thing. I enjoyed it. I think that was more than 10 years ago now. When the last issue of Fear Agent, it was probably 15 years ago at least.
I think so, because I remember those being in the shop. I don't remember if I picked it up, but I'm almost sure I did, or at least a couple issues.
Is that a book that switched publishers?
No, I think it was always Dark Horse. Let's see. I'm going to put Fear Agent Rick Remender into Wikipedia. 2005 to 2011, 32 issues. And the artists were, Tony Moore, Jerome Opeña, Francesco Francavilla, Eric Nguyen, and Kieran Dwyer did 2 issues. So lots of good artists on that book. But 2011 is the last time it came out. It's been a while. Damn, yeah, time. Everything seems like 5 years ago to me.
Oh,
Everything happened 5 years ago. So when I see actual dates, I'm like, wow. When you think that, the Mighty Skullboy Armory meets G-Man, 2004, that's 19 years ago. We're going on, just about to roll up on 20 years ago. How crazy is that?
Oh, yeah.
I've known Chris Girusso for a long time, haven't I? What year did you start, Chris?
Started in March of 1998.
And you, Wilson?
February of 1993 as an intern, and by 4 I was on the 10th floor.
Oof, I've known both of you a long time. I like Remender. I enjoyed Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. That was a good one. When are we going to get a Mighty Skullboy Artist Edition? That's what we need. Mighty Skullboy meets G-Man Artist Edition.
I missed all of that because my phone was ringing and it was blasting in my ears. So was I supposed to respond to something?
I repeat.
When are we going to get?
When are we getting Mighty Skullboy G-Man Artist Edition?
Gotta call IDW, find out when they're going to do the master.
Have you guys been
maybe
picking
we'll have to run it?
I am the only one who picks up Cerebus and Hell, and at least a third of the time I regret it. But I like keeping up with Dave Sims' weirdness. And have you ever been asked to do Cerebus?
I've never been asked to do Cerebus.
Cerebus.
At first, I thought I was thinking why would Dave Sim ask me to do? And I was like, oh no, he meant a commission.
All right, we're getting near quitting time, so we should wind it up. We've been talking for long enough. Let's see. Can we get I wonder if I can get one of these going. No fireworks.
Up before.
No thumbs up. StreamYard's giving me no special effects tonight. All right. So you guys have a good week out there.
All right. You all take care. Happy New Year.
We'll catch you next week. If Chris has to do some work, he'll lock in.
I'll be locked in, baby.
Bye-bye.
Sounds cool.
Bye.